What is up guys, welcome to another video. That Geeky guy here, and today we'll be talking about a mid-range Prism deck. So in this deck, we'll be focusing on doing both Aura and also Herald attacks. So the reason of doing this because we want to basically cover against all the different classes. As you know, Prism can be pretty weak against classes that have attack action cards with 6 and above due to the Phantasm drawback. So against Guardian Brute, Shadow Brute, and classes like that, Aggro Prism is going to have some issues, but we're going to try to remedy that with some of the auras. So what we're going to do here, actually go through the equipment first, then I'll just bring you guys to the other cards. So for the loadout itself, we're going to use Luminaries. So Luminaries is going to allow our auras to have go again, so that's pretty good. I'm just going to zoom in here so you guys can better look of the card. So Dreamweavers is great, just an overall great card to remove Phantasm for one big turn. Vestige of Soul if we want to go for a more aggro Prism, because when our Herald hits, we will basically gain one free resource. And then we have Fendel Spring Tunic if we want to go for the Aura route, so that we have a consistent one resource all the time. We have Skullcap here. Just for the additional armor, we have Phantasmal Footsteps, and also Narun Glove for some Chain and even Viscerai matchups. Now if we go down here, we have 3 copies of Sink Below. So usually these 3 Sink Belows will remain in the deck regardless of matchup, just to have that nice defense reaction and also the ability to cycle our hand. You have 9 copies of Fortune Herald. For the cost of only 1, this is an excellent card to have in the deck, even when we have only either our Tunic resource. We can just play this out if times are desperate. So Fortune Herald, when it hits, we can basically put it our soul. Next, we have 8 copies of Herald of Triumph, 3 copies yellow, 3 copies blue, and also 2 copies of Red. So this is great against matchups such as Brute and Guardian, which they can easily throw their attack action in order to destroy our attacks and closing the combat chain. So as you know, Herald of Triumph has a -1 when they are defending. So if your opponent were to defend with the attack action card, it will have -1. So that's pretty good. So usually you want to have all 8 copies. You're not sideboarding any of them. Just because of the advantage the cards provide. Next, we have 3 copies of Prismatic Shield. So this is for a more aura gameplay. So if we want to go against Guardian Brutes, so this actually helps by creating more Spectral tokens, so we can play more defensively while hitting them with some of the Spectral tokens. Next, we have 2 copies of Command & Conquer. I can't seem to find space to put in 3 copies. If you can, that's pretty good. You can just put in 3. Command & Conquer, just an overall great card. Try to have 3 copies if possible. I'm not sure what to cut down yet, but I guess you guys can actually play around and figure that out. And then we have 2 copies of Raging Onslaught. So Raging Onslaught, usually we don't really play this, but against a Prism mirror matchup, we can use this in order to break their attacks. So this is pretty good. You can even use Command & Conquer to actually do that, but I would prefer to play out Command & Conquer instead of just using it to break some Prism attacks. So Raging Onslaught is to do that. So against non-Prism, you might want to sideboard this out, as it just costs 3 in order to deal 7 damage. Next, we have Celestial Cataclysm. So 3 copies of this with a damage of 7. This also can be used in order to break another Prism's attack actions, another Prism's heralds and stuff like that. So in a Prism matchup, it's pretty good. And if you have enough souls in your banish, sorry about that, you can actually just play this out and just gain a free go again. So this is actually a solid card, so 3 copies for that. Next, we have 3 copies of Soul Shield, a must-have defense reaction for light heroes. So this is excellent because it basically gives us 1 soul, which we can actually use to create a Spectral token. Moving on, Arclight Sentinel. So this is an excellent card to have against matchups such as Bolton with the Centauri Sabers in order to stop the attacks. And then even Chain just to remove the whole turn, so they will die, maybe even die to their own blood debt. So again, other matchups such as Guardian, you can even put this in if you're suspecting they're going to play some Crippling Crushers. So during their dominate, you can actually respond with a Arclight Sentinel. So that's pretty good. So those are some of the options available against other matchups that have less attack the wider or attack damage or such. You can actually remove this if you think it's not necessary, but usually you would want to have this in your deck. And then next we have 2 Unmovables. This is just a card to go against maybe even Warrior, but against Warrior you could go for a more aggro route and actually kill them that way. But Unmovable is just nice to have against those big damages, even against Guardian and also Brute. So 2 copies of that. Prism can afford to run yellow Unmovables due to each the Luminaries pitch, so that's pretty good. Must have 3 copies of Herald of Judgment, Herald of Erudition. So this is the Prism's staple, so this is a must have. 6 copy of Herald of Protection, 3 yellows, 3 blues, and this is just a great card because when it hits, it basically creates you a free Spectral token. So once again, any form of Spectral token is pretty good for Prism, so we would want to have that. Herald of Ravages, I love this card because when it hits, it basically deals 1 arcane damage to the target hero. So this is actually instead of a 5, it's gonna be a 6 if it hits. A yellow is gonna be a 7 if it hits. So that is pretty good. And then we have 3 copies of Genesis. If you could play this during your opponent's turn, so you can during the start of your turn, you can actually play this. You can actually trigger the ability here. So we put 1 card into the soul, and then usually we'll put in a illusionist card, get to create a spectral token, and we can even draw a card. If it's a yellow, we can even banish the card, take the card out of soul, and create another spectral token. Poke the enemy for 2 times. So that's pretty much it. So Genesis, usually we would want to play it out if possible. Next we have Ode to Wrath. So this is another card, and I'm debating whether to put in 2 copies of just because it plays really well with the spectral tokens, and also some of the Herald of Ravages as different sources does deal extra of 1 more damage. So basically what it says that here, whenever a source you control deals damage to opposing hero, they lose 1 more life. So that's pretty good. But depending on matchups, you might want to remove this as it is an instant. So you want to remove that maybe against a chain and decks like that, and rely more on your heralds in order to apply pressure. But against Guardian and deck with taller attacks, you could consider putting this in to apply more pressure using your spectral tokens. So this is optional. You guys might want to play around with this. I had some successes with this, but once it's in the field, most likely it's going to get targeted by your opponent. So do take caution. Next, we have Merciful Retribution. So whenever an aura attack action card control is destroyed, we get to deal 1 arcane damage. So we can even use this to close out games when we have a bunch of spectral tokens on the field. We can play this out. Each of those spectral tokens is going to deal 1 arcane damage when it gets destroyed. And even when we play some of our heralds, if it gets destroyed, it goes into our soul. So this actually is an excellent card to have. I'm going to put 2 copies of this. If there is 1 modification I'm going to do to the deck, it's basically remove 1 Ode to Wrath to add another Merciful Retribution, just to have that nice effect there. 3 copies of Springboard Somersault just because it pitches for 2, and if you could play it out from the arsenal, it's excellent because it blocks for 4. 2 yellow pummels if you are going for more aggro against those more aggro decks such as Chain and stuff like that. Even against Ninja, we might want to go for a more aggro route. Next, we have Herald of Rebirth, 3 copies of this. We're going to play the blues. Usually we're using this in order to get our Herald of Erudition back. If you scroll back up here, so this is what I'm talking about. So we can use that to get the Eruditions back because we have only 3 copies of those. If this hits, we can put this the Eruditions on top of deck. Next, we have Herald of Tenacity. So 3 copies of these. The blues, it dominates. So if your opponent is not running any attack action that is damage 6 and above, they're basically forced to use their equipments and a card in order to defend this, or a defense reaction. So that's it, guys. That's the deck. Do play it out. Let me know how it goes. I had some success with this deck, but it does require more testing and also modifications. And so it relies heavily on the sideboarding and things like that. So thank you very much for watching, guys. Hope you guys learned something from this video. Do like, subscribe, and things like that. See you guys in the next one. Bye.